Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Dr.Sreenivas Medical Concepts and my FB page Dr.Sreenivas Concepts. This is Dr. Sreenivas, neurologist from Andhra Pradesh, India. I am also the medical author of the book Focused Neurology. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting, fascinating topic, mirror neurons. We are going to talk about a very interesting, fascinating, exciting topic, mirror neurons, from sympathy to empathy. Have you ever noticed that when your close friend gets a cut and jumps with pain, you also feel as if your hand has been cut and you're experiencing the same pain as that of your friend, though there's no cut on your friend, on yourself. This is empathy. Feeling others' pain as if it were your own. Another example, you go and watch a film. Some actor on the screen, a tragedy occurs and the actor starts crying. You're just watching it. There's absolutely no relationship between yourself and the actor on screen. It is just a screen. But still, once you see the tragedy going on the screen, along with the other actors who cry for the hero, you also start crying. You feel as if you're involved directly in the tragedy and start crying. This is empathy. Feeling as if it was happening to you. But what is the system or the substance responsible for your feeling as if you're experiencing the pain of others? What is it which is responsible for this kind of an emotional feeling, empathy? The substance, the structure responsible for this kind of feeling is known as mirror neurons. Very exciting. Mirror neurons, from sympathy to empathy. But what is sympathy? Sympathy is when someone is in distress, you feel sorry for others, for that particular person. That's it. You feel sorry, you feel bad about that person that is suffering. That's it. That is sympathy. But when you put yourself into the other person's shoes and start yourself experiencing the pain, that is empathy. Putting yourself into the other person's shoes and experiencing the pain, that is empathy. This is done by mirror neurons. Mirror neuron is a neuron that fires when an animal or person acts. He sees the other person performing a particular motor act. The same process of that particular act, he experiences it himself. The similar activation which occurs during observation and execution of actions. The same action which occurs when you execute and the same sequence occurs when you observe others perform that act. That is mirror neurons. So similar action during observation and execution of actions is mirror neurons. But how did this all start off? This was discovered only a few decades back. In Italy, what the doctors found was that when a monkey was taking a banana peeling it and eating it, its friend, the other monkey, which saw this monkey peeling the banana and eating it, that also developed the same firing of neurons as this monkey which is actually eating the banana. So they were surprised. In fact, in other place, when a doctor was eating, he saw that his pet animal also developed the same firing of neurons which would have had fired when that particular animal started eating. So they thought that there are mirror neurons which get fired the same way when it gets fired when you're performing the act just by observing others. So these neurons fire not only when you execute the act, but when you observe the other persons execute the act also. Just by observation, the same neurons fire, which are responsible for that particular sequence of action. These are mirror neurons. The areas are the prefrontal cortex, supplementary motor cortex, the inferior parietal lobe, sometimes the medial temporal lobe. What are the functions of these mirror neurons? These are probably thought responsible for learning new skills. The mirror neurons are responsible for learning new skills. How does the child develop language? How does the child start doing all the activities performed by adults? The young child, 2 years, 3 years old, it starts imitating the adults. The same neurons which are fired when the adults perform a particular sequence of action, the same neurons which were firing in the adults for that particular sequence of action was firing in these children also. And therefore they are able to learn the same sequence of movement. So mirror neurons are responsible for learning. They learn by imitating, imitation. Mirror neuron comes into action. As I said, the language abilities. The child, if it is brought up in a place where they speak a particular language, hearing and the same neurons firing, that particular child will learn the native language of that particular area. When the same child is brought to another area, it again starts imitating the adults speaking of a different language. Again the neurons, mirror neurons fire and they imitate and then they learn. So they learn the language skills. They learn all new skills by imitation. A controversy exists. Some people say that it can be used for reading the mind of others. Some people say you can read the mind of others only if it is goal directed, not a casual movement. For example, if a person picks up a cup of coffee, we all know then that the cup of coffee is used for drinking purpose, and then the neurons responsible for drinking the coffee fire up. The same thing happens in the observer also, the mirror neurons. But if the cup is picked up and just kept aside, the neurons don't fire. This is a debatable issue. So some say it is only a goal-oriented reading of mind. Empathy. This is probably the area which is studied the most in terms of mirror neurons, empathy. What they did is that when they took women and gave a painful stimulus and did a functional MRI, they could see the particular regions of the brain firing up because of the pain stimulus. They noticed it They recorded it. Then their husbands were taken in the functional MRI and they were given the same painful stimuli, now this time to the husbands. But then they took functional MRI of the wives also. What they found was amazing. The same neurons which were firing in the wife because of a cut on her hand were again started firing in the same area when her husband's hand was cut, and this was confirmed by functional MRI. So for empathy, mirror neurons plays a vital role. If you see someone close to you, a friend or a spouse, getting a painful stimulus and they experience pain, you start shouting, ouch, my hand hurts. You feel the same intensity of pain, amount of pain, though your hand is not cut. This is empathy. This is explained by mirror neurons, and they found that this empathy is more in women as compared to men. So there's a gender bias to this empathy also. Another fascinating function what they thought is that these mirror neurons are not only used to imitate others and fire when they see others performing an action, but then they realize and they start thinking, what if I'm exposed to the same kind of situation, and the neurons start firing. So it is used as introspection, turning inwards and then trying to analyze themselves. So this is also used for introspection. What if the same thing which has happened to the other person happens to me? And then they compare with the same amount or the same feeling which has happened previously. Then they start comparing it, introspection. So the mirror neurons also could be used for introspection. But then the question comes, is mirror neurons a reality or just a myth? Are there really mirror neurons? There are mirror neurons. It is seen even in infants after 6 months of age. When they put EEG and looked at the mu rhythm which desynchronizes, the alpha wave drops out in the central region called as mu wave. When a motor activity is performed, the mu desynchronization is seen in infants when other people started using or performing a particular action. This we call as mu desynchronization, which is seen in EEG in infants. This shows that there are mirror neurons. Suppose if you are a good sports person, you see another person playing a particular sport. It could be a basketball or it could be any other sport. Suppose if you are a basketball player, the way he uses is the ball, and even if he throws, by just looking at him, you can say whether he's going to throw the ball correctly into the basket or not. Because the neurons has already started firing in your brain when you're seeing a person play a particular sport, and if you're good at that particular sport. So this again shows there's existence of mirror neurons. So you see in monkeys also, basically for eating, interacting and communication. So same neurons which are used for actual execution of movement and the neurons which are used when you observe others performing the same action are the same neurons. Concluding, I would like to draw your attention for about two important points. One, for empathy. The social interaction between human beings has to take place. It is through mirror neurons. The social interaction, the social communication. So whenever your friend gets or passes through a particular feeling, you experience it as if it is yours and starts reacting accordingly. This is empathy. This is because of the presence of mirror neurons. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, if the mirror neurons were not to be there, it's not developed well, what happens? The social communication goes down, the interaction between humans goes down, and they've noticed that in children who have autism, the mirror neurons aren't that developed, or they are not present at all, underdeveloped. When the mirror neurons are not developed, the children are not socially communicative, they are not socially interactive, they are isolated. They don't have these communication skills or social interactions. This is what we call autism. So they found that the mirror neurons aren't developed well in these children suffering from autism. So it goes to show the importance, significance of mirror neurons. Man is a social animal. He has to live with others. He has to help others. This is possible only through mirror neurons. So gone are the days when you have to only sympathize. Now you have to empathize. You have to put yourself in other shoes and feel the agony the other person goes through so that you can help the other person. So this is the beauty of neurology and mirror neurons. I've enjoyed giving this lecture and I hope you have also enjoyed listening to this lecture. If you have any suggestions or comments, please post onto my YouTube channel. But please like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Dr. Sreenivas Medical Concepts, and my FB page, Dr. Sreenivas Concepts. Thank you. Bye.